Welcome back, everybody. This is the Pre-Hospital Paradigm Podcast. I'm Scott Wildenheim, my co-host here, Ray Pace, firefighter paramedic Ray. And this afternoon, this episode, we have Dr. Tony Daher. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I'll be soft.
Here we go.
I'll be soft, right? And then our tactical EMS coordinator here at UH, Joe Schuerger.
Yeah, awesome for having us out.
We'll abstain from the chief commander
Okay.
and all.
Thanks, Ray. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All the other mantras.
Oh, yeah.
that I was supposed to,
Yeah.
but I'm going to throw in there
That's-
anyway.
I appreciate it.
Just
That's
for
cool.
good,
No.
just for good measure. So we're talking about tactical EMS today, and how that integrates with what we do. And I guess the first kind of piece that I'd really like to kind of tease out here is what's kind of the difference between tactical EMS training for, say, the professional, right? The paramedic or the EMT that's assigned to a tactical team, because that's kind of become its own little subset of EMS provider, these days, specialty, I guess I should say. And then what about like the rest of us, the rest of the first responders, and where should our tactical training be? And we'll get into in a minute why we even need this. But first of all, let's differentiate that this is kind of a wide spectrum, and kind of what's the. I guess let's start with like training for the professional. If somebody wanted to do this as a.
You want to go for it? Go for it.
As a subset
Please.
of the.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we here at UH, we're starting to do tactical medical training for everyone under the UH affiliation. It's touch base briefly through paramedic school,
Right.
So we're kind of elaborating that. We want to actually start bringing it into the paramedic school. But tactical EMS for us is we're doing the TECC, and for the providers that are EMS and police officers. And what we're doing is we're just making sure that if you're going to be a part of a rescue task force team on your department,
Yep.
or for a person that's going into a SWAT team as one of their medics, we're just making sure that you have the training needed for that. And through civilian EMS, there's not really a lot of the tactical training, but there is a lot of concepts that are done at the paramedic schools that are kind of rolled into what we're doing also.
So,
But some of the, just to kind of piggyback in on that, is a lot of the tactical EMS has been piecemealed in the past.
Over the years.
Meaning that people who are interested in tactical EMS kind of went out on their own and got training in a tactical EMS course that may have been out there. And there hadn't been, or still hasn't been, kind of a set curriculum of you are going to be a tactical paramedic or tactical EMT or whatever, and there's no licensing for that. There's no credentialing.
Yeah.
Maybe credentialing is a better word to use. So historically, that has been the case, and I think people are talking about that going forward in trying to set more of an established curriculum and criteria to be labeled a tactical provider. But now, I think that, Joe can talk more about the courses probably than me, but there are courses out there that people go through for tactical training, but there hasn't really been that sort of set criteria of what it is.
A clear-cut path to it. There's just not. There's some of the programs I think Joe and Dr. Daher are bringing to the UH squads that's giving us more of a clear-cut path. But
Yeah.
I agree 100% with Dr. Daher. They're just, because I had looked into this in the past before UH started doing tactical EMS, and there's just no route. Right, if you want to become an EMT, it's pretty easy to give an answer. This is how you become an EMT. But I want to be a
You
tactical
do a certain number of
paramedic.
hours, and you have CE hours, and
There's
kind
no
of
clear-cut
established.
path. Yeah, and it's coming around. I think we're going to see that in the future.
So, having said that, is it safe to assume that there's probably a wide variance amongst providers and their skill level, their knowledge, and how they're deployed or how they're used?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and just to back up what they were saying, there's a lot of courses that will prep you because NREMT does have a tactical cert, but it's not like how paramedicine is. You have to get your paramedicine to take this,
Not
like almost
recognized
like
by
a
the-
flight medic.
Yeah, it's not
has.
recognized by the state. But
Yeah,
it's,
it's the NREMT does have something, and then there's different ones like NAEMT that you get your Cap C credits through some classes, things like that. And we're just trying to bridge the gap to help anyone underneath the UH affiliation and it's been pretty wild. It's been very busy since April. So
yeah, let's.
you want to go right into that?
I kind of want to go into that.
Yeah.
So, how did UH get into this game, right? I mean, suddenly we're branched off into another thing. And,
Yeah.
At a meeting, you show up and here's
Pretend like I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Here's our tactical
Yeah.
EMS czar.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Czar, I like that.
you like that?
Yeah.
And then.
So
then
yeah,
we're headlong into this.
So like 2 years ago, Dan Ellenberg, our director, approached myself and Mike Lester, which is I call my right-hand man when it comes to the training, and he's the assistant chief out of Richfield. And they're like, do you want to go take the trainer course for TECC? And I was just getting on to our SWAT team out in Summit County, and I go, yeah, that'd be awesome. So it was myself, Mike Lester, Dr. Daher was there, a couple other doctors, and some paramedics from UH. And we did the class, and Dan goes, yeah, we're going to start teaching TECC. And that was before COVID, and it kind of took a back seat, obviously, like
As
everything
did.
And April, Dan calls me up and goes, hey, you still want to teach? I go, absolutely, let's do it. So I called Mike and go, Mike, Dan wants to start this back up. You still interested? And he goes, absolutely. And April was our first class in Richfield. We posted it, and in 8 hours we had 52 people apply. And it's only a 20 spot place, 20 spot class. And I'm like, well, that it was humbling,
Sure,
because
yeah.
back in the day, tactical EMS was just like, oh, you're a tactical paramedic. What are you, like, why? Like, what are you going to do? And a lot of these people are evolving into wanting to get this training because, active shooters, rescue task force concepts being initiated with the hospital systems and the fire departments, just like that. And so April came out. We did really well, I think, in April. And since then, we've had multiple classes out by Ray with Howland. We're doing a lot of classes for the 2-day class for providers. We're doing a lot of classes for police departments, publicly, or they contact us and we go right to the departments. And since April, at least one class a month, and we're booked until December, and we're already booking for 2023. We got a lot more awesome stuff in the pipe. It's pretty crazy.
So are you suggesting that the online rescue task force training that we all had to do for our state certification, that may not be quite enough?
So that's almost like an awareness course, and it
Yeah,
kind of
there
gets
it
like
is.
people to think like, hey,
That's
let's
perfect.
get into another class.
Right.
And I'm not going to bash the state of Ohio. I don't
No,
think
it's not.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make the point that is. I love that term.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of the hazmat mentality.
Yeah.
It's hazmat awareness. Right.
Yeah.
It's not. Doesn't make you an expert.
No.
And you shouldn't be gearing up and immediately head.
It just gets you kind of get in the mindset of like, if you want to really get into something like that, it kind of gives you a glimpse of what it can be. And for Rescue Task Force, we're starting to roll out ours for university hospitals. It's a concept, and there's no specific licensure about it. You can't be like, oh, I'm an RTF instructor. Well, it's a concept. There's not really an official accreditation for it.
Right, yeah.
So what we like to do is we go into these departments. We kind of find out what the resources are, what the response times are, where the trauma centers are, and we tailor all the trainings to the specific people. And we have nothing but good things. Ray, if you want to elaborate, we did one out in Howland in June. You tell me. I'm guessing everyone liked it because.
Yeah, I think it's a big concept.
You also train TECC.
So we did TECC. We've done some RTS stuff. We just did an RTF class out in Joe's neck of the woods where his department was there. I think the big thing is not saying anything negative about the state.
Yeah,
I think
no.
we all agree there. It's just that RTF that was put out from the state, I think, was just, hey, we're trying to do something. How can we get a course out to all of our providers in the state of Ohio to give you that awareness level, that foundation, to kind of open your eyes to this is a big deal. These large-scale shootings, whether it's a school shooting or it's a shooting in the business setting, they are happening everywhere, and a lot of people just aren't prepared, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something I think the state put out to really open your eyes to it. We've done those classes now, and like Joe said, I think we really try to take the time to take that RTF course and then adapt it to you. And it really, I think, opens the fire department's eyes to, I need to talk to the police department. I need to train with the police department. How do we unify command in this incident? And
but it's not only your own departments, also it's your mutual aid and your
100%.
whoever else is going to respond to a major incident in your community.
Which is going to be everybody.
It's going to be everybody.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be your county. Yeah. I mean, Dr.
Yeah.
Daher, you have a great point. 100%. it's going to be large scale.
Yeah.
And most likely your police are going to be kind of their job is to get in there and neutralize the threat. So whoever the fire department is training with is probably not going to be there. I mean, it's probably not going to be your city's law enforcement. It's most likely going to be a mutual aid department's law enforcement that you're going to be teaming up with in the RTF concept. So and that's one of the big things when we do these RTF drills. That's one of the things we always try to think about is how can we integrate this with mutual aid, surrounding communities, the people who are actually going to be responding to incidents at whatever location you're training at.
Who's the second, third order people that are coming in to
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we did at Joe's place. We spoke about it. Some of those agencies weren't able to attend, but I mean, Dr. Daher has a great point. It might not even be your city police or deputy sheriff. It might be an Ohio State trooper that is in the area, and then now, hey, I just showed up, and that might be one of the two police officers that's going to go in with an RTF team. You've never met them before, maybe you've never spoken to them before, and hey, this is what we're going to do. We need to work together. So I think the RTF concept is a good foundation for everybody to be working on. We pride ourselves on doing it here. I think we're trying to do a really good job. The classes that we've taught have been very receptive. Like Dr. Daher said, it's a multi-resource response. From talk about hazmat, we talk about hot zone, warm zone, cold zone, and it's really changed. I think EMS's mentality. RTF concept was to open everybody's eyes to we have to get into the warm zone, right? I know we're getting off our little list here.
No, it's a no order, right?
It fits into tactical medicine and it fits into RTF. And I know Tony will talk about the history of how we got here, but it really changes the mindset of how are we going to save as many people as we possibly can, right? So if that active shooter starts, and Joe knows this because this is the way I teach and I taught it when we were out at his place, if the shooting starts, then that school resource officer, I'm just going to use the school for example, that school resource officer is going to try to go neutralize the threat, right, or contain the threat, and then the first wave of police officers, which is your town, USA, they're going to be coming in to also neutralize the threat. Now you're going to get the second wave of police officers that are going to be probably from a surrounding township, city, village, OSP, and then the fire department's going to get dispatched, right? And historically, we would hang out in the cold zone and we would wait until everything is safe. And those days are gone. They're just over. We've learned through history that doesn't work. We're not going to save people doing that, and it's changed. And that's where that RTF concept really integrates getting a team into the warm zone with two law enforcement officers protecting that team, and then the treatment starts. Right. So if we can stop the bleeding at that point, then we could save lives, or at least statistically increase saving lives in that warm zone a lot more.
Yep, it's always moving.
A lot of we got to this point, as you were saying, right? Because if you're going to wait for tactical EMS to arrive, Joe and I are on a team, and you're on a team. If you call a team out, we need the SWAT team. Let's call them out. Great. Blast page goes out. Okay, we're gonna meet at wherever the location. You're talking 45 minutes to an hour before your SWAT team is going to get there. People are dying in that 45 minutes to an hour. The FBI put out statistics every year. They put out statistics, but they have shown that the average active shooter event lasts about 13 minutes. Most of them, 90% of them, are done by 45 minutes. So if you're waiting for an hour for the SWAT team to get there, it's over though. It's way too late. And people get shot every 13 seconds, or I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a very time-sensitive issue.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you mentioned the history of tactical EMS. I think we can sort of run through how we got here.
How we got here, right.
And we got here. It really, a lot of the tactical EMS and civilian EMS really comes out of the military, right? So special forces and those kind of groups realize that if you have a medical component attached to a tactical team, they do better, right? They're healthier, they complete missions better, it just worked out better. So that came over to the civilian side in the 60s, with the Watts riots and LA SWAT, put a medic on their team, and it has kind of grown since that point.
Yep.
Because really having, a tactical medicine, a separate tactical medicine group is great, but they're not there very quickly. so that then the RTF concept kind of came into play. And really, RTF concept became big after Columbine, right? I mean, in Columbine in 1999, they were practicing under the old, scenarios, which meant that, okay, there's an active shooter, law enforcement is going to set up a perimeter, they're going to call in the SWAT team, and we're going to wait for the SWAT team to come, and then the SWAT team is going to go in and clear the building, and once the building is clear, then we're going to bring in EMS and start providing medical care. Well, at Columbine, it took 4 hours to clear the building. Columbine's a huge facility, and it took 4 hours to clear the building, and finally to bring in, fire department or EMS
Clinical care,
to start giving medical care. And by then, a lot of people had died. I mean, there was a big lawsuit around Columbine and the teacher that bled to death for 2 hours.
He held the whiteboard out the window saying, so many people are. Yeah, that's the main picture that it sticks with a lot of the guys.
For sure.
It kind of sparked how a lot of the teams have medics on their team, and that kind of like started fueling the RTF. But it came out of just getting into the hot zone and providing care.
And the definition of hot zone too has sort of evolved into kind of direct threat. Is there a direct threat in that place? That's the hot zone. If it's a place where, at least the first wave of law enforcement has gone through, even if it's not technically secured, is that a place where people can start providing care? A
cursory pass through is suddenly where we find ourselves operating.
Right.
Yeah, because that first officer early on in that event, they're not going to be clearing every room. They're running towards the shooting. And it's dangerous for law enforcement in this setting because they are not clearing, not looking around. They're going directly to the screaming, the gunshots. So they're trying to stop the threat because statistically we know how long this event is going to last. We know a couple different routes that it's probably going to end. It's either going to end by the police eliminating the threat, or maybe the shooter taking their own life. But we have to stop the shooting so that less people are injured, less people are dying. And I think the RTF concept was put out there because those teams, do take some time to immobilize, and I think that there's a lot of merit in those teams. And I'm on one as well, just like the rest of us at this table. It was how do we incorporate, fire department A in this town into trying to do that? How do we get them in the building? How do we change the mindset after Columbine? How do we improve upon this, right? And how do we learn from all of these different events? And that's just incorporating paramedics that are regular paramedics on an ambulance with some protection. They're going to be hopefully they have a vest, they have some helmet, they have eye protection, they have some of the appropriate bleeding control gear. We even have a protocol, Tony mentioned it, about direct threat, right? So we have a direct threat protocol for that. So we talk about utilizing a tourniquet to control bleeding, using quick clot, needle decompression, and then I believe we have an airway column in there as well in that protocol. So it's just given some guidance to maybe people that don't have access to the teams, but it's really, like Joe said, it's a concept, right? There's no cut and dry way to teach that. You kind of have to mold it to your organization, your police response, your mutual aid companies that are coming in, your hospital that's going to be in your jurisdiction. So I think it really opens people's eyes to what if it happens here, right? So even if they watch that state video for RTF, and I'm sure we'll get into teams and how they're different, but it should really open your eyes to this could happen here, right? We need to be prepared for it. It's something you have to be prepared for in your organization. And it's not just going to be a school. It could be a large business. It could be a movie theater. It's just a large congregation of people, right? That could be a football game on a Friday night, unfortunately, somewhere.
For sure.
So it's just the different venues, but there's a mass gathering of people. So I think it really starts to, at least hopefully most places have thought about that. How are we going to handle this all the way down? Because there's so many components in it.
Even the jurisdictions that don't have those gathering places, right? You identify. Okay, we're a sleepy bedroom community. It's not going to happen here. It may not happen there on a scale. However, you're going to be
at that event,
second in one town over, or at the corner of the county. So it's we can't have this complacency and this we can't be naive. Like, oh, it's not going to happen here. And
I mean,
I think
we are in Chardon right now.
Yeah.
Quiet suburban community.
Yeah.
It happened here.
And it happened here.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with the city that can never happen here. But what if you have a big social gathering at a house? That could be an active shooter, or a neighborhood. I mean, someone's upset with the HOA. It sounds ridiculous, but hey, you never know.
Not this day and age.
You seriously never know. It doesn't matter what your location is. It can literally happen everywhere, and that's what we're trying to hit home with a lot of these departments and these law enforcement agencies that you got to train, and you can't just say no, it won't happen here, because you just never know, and that's what we're kind of hitting home with a lot of these guys.
So, Dr. Daher, you kind of touched on the military influence in all of this. Obviously, anybody that's done an EMT or paramedic course, I mean, that's the first 4 pages of the book is, how we got here from a civilian side, basically born out of experiences from the military. Does that influence still exist? I mean, do the teams, do the practitioners of tactical medicine that I want to say do it more professionally, that are on a fixed team, are we taking information from the military or
Absolutely,
yeah.
100%. I mean, a lot of what we do really comes out of the military. For our direct threat protocol and for our gear and equipment and IFACs and those things that we'll talk about, all of that came out of the military, right? The military did a huge study and said, well, what is killing our soldiers, right? They looked through, a lot of, obviously with severe trauma, people have unsurvivable injuries and they die immediately.
It is what it is, right?
But what we really want to key in on, and what the military has learned to key in on, is what they call preventable deaths. What can you stop people from dying from?
Right.
And of that, they found that 2/3 of people that have what they call preventable deaths is hemorrhage. They just bleed to death. So that became their number one priority. In the direct threat, we want to stop hemorrhage. That can take a lot of different concepts. It can be pressure dressings, it can be quick clot, it can be gauze, it can be tourniquets, it can be all of those sort of things. Number 2, after that became tension pneumothorax. People die from tension pneumothorax. You have some period of time before that tension builds up and people die. You can intervene in that. So chest seals, needle decompression, that became our next thing. And then the third thing that people die from is basic airway.
Right.
They are unconscious, they can't protect their airway. Now that becomes a little tricky because we have a lot of ways to protect airways, right? We can intubate people, we can use supraglottic devices, we can use video laryngoscopy, we can do all of those sort of things. Yep. But you're in a direct threat environment.
In that context.
So you have to use what's realistic in your environment. So basic airway maneuvers, recovery positions, nasal or oral pharyngeal airways, things like that you can do quickly in a direct threat environment has kind of become the third piece of medical care that we provide in a direct threat. And we do that because that's what the military learned through their studies. And things kind of then bleed into the civilian side of it. TXA, which we'll talk about probably at some point as well, is another issue that has come out of the military.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that if in a active shooter tactical direct threat environment, the provider is putting an artificial airway into the patient, BLS airway during the extrication, that the survivability goes down basically in the order you presented them, right? So
absolutely,
hemorrhage, tension pneumothorax, and then airway.
100%.
Essentially, if
100%, for sure.
The more things we do, or the further we get down that list, the
less chance of survival.
Less chance of survival. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the other thing with the military, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, is there's really, this is not really scripted, if you will, and there's not this national organization that it's kind of fragmented, and we teach the NREMTPs, right?
NAEMT.
NAEMT, sorry. NAEMTPs. How does what we teach compare to maybe other classes
Yeah, so
that
like
are out there?
for the military, there is a set standard. A lot of people use like the deployed medicine. They do a lot of the updates for like a train the trainer. NAEMT does TCCC, and between TCCC and TECC. TCCC has more of like the antibiotics they're given overseas, a little bit more of the austere environment versus TECC. That's more of like civilian that train here. There's a lot of other agencies that take an AMT or they formulate their own depending on where they're at. We use an AMT for UH, but we're tailoring it to standards modernization. We kind of taken what NAEMT has given us and made it our own. And we've gotten help from the committee of TECC. They kind of oversee a lot of the updates and stuff for NAMT and other organizations that teach that. And we've actually reached out to them, and they're helping us pretty good. And we're just making it our own. Everyone hates PowerPoints, so we have to do it. There's always a PowerPoint specification for us. We're making it more of tailored to let's integrate it more with hands-on, more experienced people. We have a lot of experienced guys that are helping teach us. And I know we want to get into that, like what we're doing and stuff like that, but it's, more experience than, I don't want to bring someone in that teaches that has never done this in real life. I'd rather have more experienced people in that. So that's what we're doing.
Clearly, so.
But also, sorry to interrupt.
No.
Also, a lot of the TCCC or military side of it deals much more with prolonged extrications.
field care.
I mean, if you are in the middle of Baghdad or wherever
Sure.
you are in Afghanistan, and you may not have an extrication helicopter to get to you for a day, your treatment is going to be different than what most of us in the civilian side, especially here in Northeast Ohio,
specifically Northeast
where
Ohio,
you fall down and you're on a
trauma center, right?
Yeah. So
And a lot of
those days-long extrications are not typical. We train a little bit of that on the SWAT side of it because you may be out in the woods somewhere or something like that where there may be a slightly longer extrication or some kind of evacuation to a squad that may be over some distance or some abnormal terrain or something like that. But for the vast majority of civilian EMS, you get in the ambulance, you go to the trauma center, which is very close to you, at least in Northeast Ohio.
Just for my own curiosity and understanding. So my question comes from the professional tactical side of things, right? So you guys wind up on a scene with your team, and this is going to be a 24, 48-hour barricade, whatever stupid ass scenario we've humanity has concocted for you, right? Over that period of time, I have to imagine that there has to be some care of the tactical athlete, if you will.
Yeah.
So what kind of things from that prolonged standpoint in the civilian world do you guys have to consider and kind of work through? I mean, I imagine in some cases there's an opportunity to rotate personnel, and I imagine that sometimes there's not, and they have to stay where they're at.
I think one call that was not recent, but like in the last year, it was a multi-location. We didn't know how long we're going to be out there. It's kind of like if you feel like it, if you like you need to put the local fire department on standby, you let them know, like, hey, we'll be in the area doing this. Let's have your squad stay somewhere. That's what we kind of do sometimes. We use a heat index like a lot of the teams do, for so much heat, and depending on the weather, the cold, there's a rotation that we really we want to handle so the guys aren't freezing and frostbite.
You have a Kestrel,
No,
you gotta get it.
And we make sure that all our vehicles have heat. We have enough water, enough air conditioning, just to do a rotation, because you don't want to have an operator out there that has altered mental status and that's covering a building. So we kind of always make sure of that, and we do a really good job with the rotation. And do you, for TAG, what do you have like a heat index that you guys use, or you just kind of go off of?
And all this is the medics and tactical medicine.
Part of our medical care involves, hey, putting that hint out there to the commander, even for the law enforcement guys, like, wow, they've been out there for 2 hours and it's 100 degrees.
I'm sorry, you were
Some
gonna
of those people may
tell
need
us.
to rotate out or get water to them or get whatever.
Yeah, no, I think Dr. Dayer's hitting the nail on the head. So is Joe. Like, we look at the humidity, what's the heat index, how long,
or cold.
how long, yeah, or cold,
cold.
too. And the,
For sure.
the flip side of that is, now we need to stay warm. What type of call out is it going to be? What type of terrain are you going in? Is it just you're going to be on a residential street, or are you going something that's back in the woods or some random thing where, I'm worried about now I need a bigger pack. And then I think too, we do look at that. We look at heat index. We look, is it going to be cold? We want to be prepared for that with clothes, extra clothes, and then we also look at too, what might the team need during that time too. So a lot of times we're gonna get into this in a little bit. The medicines we carry to not only take care of our team, but how about just generic medications, right? So if I'm out on a call out and I'm there for 12 hours or some type of barricade situation, now I have a headache, right? So normal things,
I got a stomach ache. I sprained my ankle, right?
Exactly, like all just the generic ones. What if I get stung by a bee and a guy on the team's allergic too? So we don't necessarily think about Benadryl or an EpiPen, or maybe I just need some ibuprofen for that headache.
That's what my nickname is, the mom of the team. You carry you carry the Tylenol, you carry the Pepto-Bismol, you carry extra allergy medicine, sunscreen, bug bites, and I take pride in that to make sure my team's good to go. A lot of those guys on our team carry that and just make sure everything's going.
And are you all responsible for the medical surveillance of that team during the deployment? And to what extent do you essentially have all of the operator's background? Is all that teased out ahead of time, or?
So we actually worked on that with our team. I can speak to that.
Sure.
We actually sat down with the team, explained it, and we have laminated cards that each one of them carry that are accessible in one of their pouches on their vest, so that we know we can open their vest, go to that. It has a medical history. And then anything that we might want to know, right? So if
medications they're taking,
right? So if somebody takes a blood thinner, then we want to know that. Yep. If somebody is a diabetic, we want to know that. So there is a little card, pertinent information, blood type, things like that we do access. We kind of work that out well before call-outs happen with our team, and I think that just makes us better prepared. I think it also gets a comfortability level between, hey, we are there for you. We're here for each other, and a lot of time, you're playing mama bear, right? For lack of a better word, it's just, because you never know when these things are going to happen. So it's the over-the-counter, small things like that, and do help.
Yeah. Just going off what he says, we do literally the exact same thing, and at the end of the year, we have an update. We actually do like a 12 lead and a 4 lead to make sure that there's no underlying heart rhythms. We actually keep a strip of that for each individual to make sure, like, if if they do have a heart attack or they're having some issues, we can kind of look back on their past medical history. And every one of our medics on our team, we do have like a little pouch I made up of all the over-the-counter medicines. So all those guys have them anywhere we're at. They're supposed to be on them in their bags at all times. Nice. Because you're always going to get the guy with the headache when you're 4 miles into the woods.
Of course.
It always happens. Or, hey, you got any bug spray? We have like the bug wipes and stuff like that. We carry all that. So just to make sure that everyone's prepared for the mission. That's what we're here for.
When teams run on Chipotle and Red Bull, you got to be
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta tune your medical response for that. So, what's the differences in the makeups of the teams? Basically, how is it decided? Why is why is there a cluster of teams here, cluster of teams here? Do they work interchangeably? Do they support each other? Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so for myself and Dr. Daher, we're on Metro SWAT, which is Summit and some of Portage County, and right now we're overseeing 22 cities in that area, and they pay into it like it's called a fair share fee depending on the population. They have to give up so many police officers, not really to do with the medics. It's more of like an application period for the medics. You have to go through an interview, but we handle everything around Akron, some with Portage County, but for these teams, there's sometimes the county teams. There is a Summit County, the sheriff has their own team. Your team is more of the county team also?
Yeah, we're more of a county team, yes.
So like for us, it's almost like a subscription to Metro SWAT.
A lot of teams are multi-jurisdictional because you share costs.
Yes.
Of course.
By doing that. It's very very cost prohibitive to try to have a separate team for each city.
Yeah, like
unless you're a large city.
Unless you're a large city.
yeah, like Akron's got their own team. Cleveland's got their own team. Seb, which is up north around Cleveland, has an east and west team. There's Web. There's so many acronyms out there. Edge, Web, Star, you name it. It's up. Tag, like Metro. There's so many different ones. And we do some training with the Cuyahoga Falls SWAT team. They're actually their own entity for Cuyahoga Falls. Okay. And we're their mutual aid, and they're our mutual aid if ever needed. And we work well with them. And it's just to make sure that if, like, for example, Akron had a couple conflicts down over the summer. We were kind of on standby. They're aware of what we have, and if needed, we would go down there and help them. But we're almost all around the city of Akron and going into Portage, and we're always adding. It all depends on what the cities have versus what the cities need, and what can they afford. A lot of these cities can't have their own SWAT team because a lot of that, ballistic armor, ballistic vehicles, you name it, whatever you need to have, it's not like a standard patrolman, and that's why it's easier for a lot of the counties or the cities to come in and pull all their money to buy this stuff, and then if they need to call out, they page it out. We get pages. We talk to each other who's responding, and for Metro, we should have an immediate action team within an hour, ready to go. And like we said, it does take a while if there was an active shooter, but we're coming from all over the place. Like we got guys from if they work in Kent, but they're out in Brunswick and Medina, it's going to take a little bit. So we probably have about over 50 officers. Our team, we have 10 paramedics, one doc. Dr. Daher here, and we have a boatload of negotiators, probably about 8. So,
really?
Yeah, we got a big team.
You have more almost as many negotiators as you do paramedics.
And it's always rotational.
Medical assets, I should say.
Our commander is just retiring. He was on the team for 25 years, so it's a very close knit group. It's awesome. It's like a second. I call it my second family. It's really cool to be a part of. I mean, Ray, it's probably like how you guys are over there too.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, Joe hit the nail on the head. It's we're a county team, and you develop that bond, that group mentality, and it's one team working together. Even though we're integrating paramedics into law enforcement, it's you become close. They're close friends, and then you start talking about whose kid's baseball game's going on this weekend and stuff like that. And you become a tight knit group, especially training together, going to call outs, and that's what builds that trust because there's some sticky situations, whether it's 4 miles back in the woods or it's a residential street. So yeah, you become a close-knit group, and I think it's really important to come together with that. And I think a lot of, like Joe said, counties and cities, not everybody can afford these teams. So you're seeing a consolidation of a lot of these resources, and teams are working together because we're covering some pretty large geographical areas across maybe multiple counties, multiple jurisdictions, and in this day and age, we all have to work together to make sure we're best prepared for that incident when it happens.
Going back to
and we're really integrated into the team, I think, for the most part as well. And I mean, when they line up in a stack to go to the facility or into the structure or whatever it is, there's a paramedic in there, right? I mean, they are literally right in there with the law enforcement officers. So they are really seen as an integral part of the team. And now, having said that, they try to protect the medical care more. I mean, obviously because they're not law enforcement, but also because if they go down, they want the medical care to be there for them.
That was the point.
So they recognize the fact that hey, this guy could save me, so I want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
But we are right in there in the stack with them. We train with them. We do all the same things that they do for that reason. I mean,
that was kind of the point I was going to bring up. Is there's got to be a huge psychological value for the operators knowing that you're part of you're attached to them. I mean, you're literally a hand grab away.
So way back in the day, it was never like that, man. Like I can't. Metro was never really like this, but like a lot of the teams that I contact and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, we're in a car like 3 blocks down. I'm like, well, what if someone goes down? I go, well, that's what we're trying to implement. I go, you're kind of getting treated like a redheaded stepchild because you're not integrated with the team, but we want to be a part of to make sure that they know that we're here. We're trained medical professionals. a lot of the guys, yeah, they carry tourniquets and whatnot, but they're not going to be packing the wounds and seeing. You don't want to take an operator out of the fight to provide medical. They're there to initiate to neutralize the threat. And by no means if we're trying to be cops. We do carry under the ORC. We have gone through everything that's under the House bill and we qualify, but we're not in there to clear rooms. We're not there to find the threat and neutralize it, but we do carry for defensive purposes.
That's your worst day plan.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams are going that route, but some teams aren't, and a lot of teams have contacted myself and to get like what our SOP is. So because a lot of these departments are finally evolving, and it's pretty cool to see because it was never like that. It was never like that in the state of Ohio.
We joke with our team. Listen, if one of the medics is pulling a gun out,
that's the worst day ever.
A lot of bad things have happened.
Worst day ever.
And law enforcement really screwed up somehow.
Yeah, no,
because
worst
if
day
you've gotten
ever.
down to me pulling my gun out, something very bad has happened. Yeah.
But we do train.
Multiple bad things have happened.
Yeah.
But
they seen, we had to go through the bailiff class. We had to go through a decision-making class through OPATA. That's OPATA certified. And then with our team that we'd have to do the qualifications, but we have made up a course of fire to do tactical medicine with a lot of the range guys. And, they're impressed of where we started, but where we are. And, I thank them all the time of letting us be a part of that because, like I said, some departments still have the medics sit 3 blocks away.
They're often
they're just sitting there, and I'm like, that's not good because what are you going to drag the guy down 3 blocks? And I just
if I meet you halfway.
A lot of places are evolving.
The ending's already scripted.
Yeah. So it's evolving, and it's pretty cool to see. When we talk to these teams that are under university hospitals, it's there's real progressive, but then there's people that are just getting starting to walk into the progressiveness of it too. So,
Tony, that kind of brings up the point we have here is what is your involvement as the team's physician, right? I mean, do you do all the things that the medics do as well? You get to play. I guess is really my.
Oh yeah.
Do the kids let you play as well, or?
So. I mean, obviously, as the medical director of a team, a lot of my role is making sure that the protocol is appropriate, making sure that we are doing care that's within the scope of practice and appropriate for a direct threat environment. But on the day-to-day aspect of it, I mean, I'm out there with them in training. I have gear on. I carry gear in the back of my car. If we get a call out, I can show up on scene. For the most part, I tend to be in the command post, maybe away from the actual scenario or situation. Although there has been times where I was the first one to show up and the immediate action team needed to go out. And I was like, okay. I jumped in the Bearcat and we went. Like, okay, I'll go.
No holding back Tony, man. He's good to go. and I love it. I love the hands-on, man. It's awesome.
I qualify twice a year around with at the range, and I took the classes to shoot, and I do all that stuff with the team. And part of that is just, law enforcement or that band of brothers that fire EMS mentality. Right? It's all the same mentality. And while I have, you come in with some respect, having medical, knowledge, to really be integrated into a team, you got to be out there. You got to sweat with them. You got to pick up brass at the range after we're done shooting. You got to, whatever it is. And that's really how you integrate into a team.
Pull your weight, yeah. So, we've talked a little bit about the teams and the setup, and a fair amount about the training, but let's get into the nuts and bolts. What does, and let's tackle this from two different angles here. What is the first responder, the RTF minded provider? What kind of gear do they need?
I think I can take that one.
Go for it, man.
They need like at a minimum, they need correct ballistic protection. Right, Joe's a lot better at covering that than I am, but they need vests, they need helmets, they need eye protection, and they need some type of kits. Plus, they need their own IFAC kit, and that's my personal opinion. They need training. Not only just from what the state has done, but they need to do some either in-house training or have university hospitals come out and do training, and also train with the law enforcement agency in that area or the surrounding communities, just like Dr. Daher said. And I think that's the biggest thing. They need the appropriate gear, right? It's no different than I was in a class, and I think it was actually a symposium put on by UH, and there was a gentleman that came up from Prince George County, and he stood up there and said, going into one of these active shooter events is, dangerous, right? Who thinks this is dangerous? And it's a room full of fire and EMS and physicians, and so people raise their hand, and then he puts a picture of a house fire up there, right? And he said, "But this is okay, right? This is safe, right? And it's and it's not safe. Neither event is 100% safe. We're doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we've learned from history. We've prepared better for it, but you got to have the right gear going into it. No different than the house fire. I have to have the appropriate gear to go in and fight a house fire. We need the appropriate gear to go into this situation. So I would say at minimum, they need a vest. They need a helmet. They need eye protection. I'm going to stick up for Brad here since he's not here.
Yeah.
One of our
Shout out to Uncle Brad.
Yeah, shout out to Uncle Brad for you got to have eye protection. And soup to nuts to that is it's not if you are tight on a budget. Maybe I'm heading down a rabbit hole here, but if you're tight on a budget, I need bleeding control items. I need commercialized tourniquets. Maybe I need some Israeli bandages or some cling that I can make my own pressure bandages with. Needle decompression needles, some chest seals, and I need maybe some NPAs or something, like just basic equipment if you're trying to get in it and you're not on a huge budget. I think those are probably some of the heavy hitters. Well, I'm also a big proponent of carrying your own IFAC on your person, right? So if you were wounded, you need a tourniquet for you, right? I need some of that. Maybe I need Quick Clot for me too, right?
This never leaves my pocket. This
Correct.
is for me. Right?
Yeah, you got to have something to take care of yourself.
Self-rescue.
100%. But I mean, those are some of the things for RTF. A lot of fire departments that we go to, that we teach at, they've purchased, ballistic vest, helmets, and they have, let's say just a good sized front pouch that's mounted on the front of the vest with some of those items I listed there. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah, you don't want to carry too much stuff because you're not doing all that advanced airway and advanced bleeding control in the warm zone that's going to be in the triage area. So yeah, you hit basically everything that you need to carry. Yeah.
But you also need to have it in a way where you can do things.
Yeah.
So having
Yes.
a small kit attached to your body and both of your hands can be free to actually do
Plug
things that
holes.
you need to do.
Yep.
And that's a huge thing that teaching, like Tony, not to interrupt you, Dr. Daher said, is you have to be mobile, right? You have to be able to work. So if you're a department that's going to purchase things and you don't know, call somebody that does know. I mean, call Joe or reach out to somebody, ask questions about ballistic protection, and like plate carriers. I know we have plate carriers because we wanted more mobility. So that we have great shot stop plates, phenomenal company, high level protection. They're extremely light, and then the plate carrier we chose was because we wanted more mobility, because we need to move people too. We need to treat them. We need to move. Plus, we might need to drag somebody
them.
out.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want
Carry them
light.
on a
I want
range.
lightweight, and I want some stuff attached to me, but you don't want it too bulky. You're 100% right. This is not a general EMS call. I'm not dragging in that 60-pound jump bag with everything in there and my intubation kit and all that. No, we want lightweight, travel fast. That's just some of the things that I think about when it comes to gear.
And also gear is, a lot of the professional, the way you mentioned it, professional tactical EMS have custom gear.
Yes.
That is fit for them. But in an RTF scenario, it's going to be more general gear that is bought for the department, and whoever's there will put it on.
Kind of one
It's
size
sort of-
fits all.
Yep.
or
Velcro
fits
adjust.
most, or
Fits
some.
most.
Yeah.
Fits some.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fits some of the individual.
Yeah. So the gear is going to be a little different. And, I don't know. Do you want to, like Joe is good at the gear, do you want to get into?
Yeah. Well,
plate
you want to
carriers?
briefly talk about some
That was
gear?
going to be my
Plate
question.
carriers versus
do
a
you
vest
just
versus...
do you just go for the highest
Yes.
rated
No.
highest rated plate, the
No,
highest rated
absolutely
gear
not.
out there?
So-
because it can protect you from everything.
So touching base with what Ray was talking about, my gear for Metro, I use a First Fear vest. It's a vest. It's got soft and hard armor. I do have Shot Stop. Shot Stop is local, awesome company. This is not an infomercial for them at all, but I really stand by what they do. And
You got
it's
your shameless
Yeah,
plug.
no,
on
Do
that.
you wanna- do you want to just mention what maybe people don't know what plates are?
Yeah,
We're
so-
saying plates,
yeah.
but maybe people
So
don't
the
understand
ballistic
what
plates
that
are
is.
actually what stops the bullet. And there's different levels, level 1, 2, 3A, 3 plus, and all the way up to 4. And what I have is I do 3 plus. That'll stop 5.56 green tip all the way up to 30-06. And I have it it's called ICS in conjunction with soft trauma plates underneath it. So I do have the 360 protection on the sides. You can do ballistic plates, this like the side plates, but they're like a 4x6. It's on each side. But a lot of people run the soft because it's more mobile. More mobile. You can get down. It's not like you're carrying things on your side. There is a level 4. That's usually the more heavier type. A lot of it is more of like the ceramics, and they get up to like 8 to 10 pounds each, per thing. And you don't want to carry that. And that's like with the higher rounds with like the 30-06, the 308, things like that. It just doesn't. That's not what you're really typically seeing. It's more of like the 9mm 5.56
pistol calibers.
sometimes the 7, the AK rounds. So it all depends on how mobile you want your guys to get. So my first spear vest is extremely light, and unfortunately the RTF vests that we have right now are extremely heavy because we went with Type 4 ceramics. And back then when we started looking at the stuff, our mindset was, let's make sure these guys are 100% protected.
Best protection.
Yeah. But when we did the RTF scenarios, a lot of the guys are like, man, this thing's heavy. I go, well, check this out. This is what I carry. I mean, like I said, the ceramics are 8 to 10 pounds. Mine are poly, and they're like 3.5 pounds each. So it's almost half. And, better shelf life. The ceramics are, 5 to 10 years. All depends on the manufacturer. But mine's 15 years.
Shelf life. What do you?
Yeah.
What,
So there's.
You mean these things expire?
Yeah. So they expire because of how much rubbing goes in, and the chemical breakdown and everything like that. How everything gets. Everything has an expiration date.
Everything has an expiration date.
And then if you go over the shelf life, you don't want it to spall, or if it spalls, it could kill someone, or the ricochets, things like that. So yeah, there's always a shelf life that's how to replace it. But my poly plates are 15 years, and I call it the buy once, cry once. You buy it high, expensively in the beginning. You're not going to have to replace that within the 15-year mark, right. And it's lightweight. I can move better, and overall your fatigue's going to go down because you're not carrying almost 25 30 pounds on your back. So, I mean, a lot of people are doing like the 3+ with possibly ICW, like in conjunction with soft trauma, or they do make 3+ that are just standalones. That like probably what you guys do 3+.
Yeah, we do 3+.
Yeah. So they can take all those rounds. They just probably you don't have the side plates, but it's just the front and back, and it's more mobile. So it all depends on what your department. One is what's your department's budget, and two, what you want to get out of the equipment. Like, we're kind of tailoring to possibly doing some more vests that have just soft armor to get these guys to wear them into not active shooter situations, but like domestic violence, stabbing, shootings, just to have an overall protection. And these guys are not going to want to put on 25, 30 pound weight, vests when you go into this house, and you got the side plates and you got the stuff hanging off you, and it's the stabbing. So we're kind of looking into doing a lighter weight vest. More of the soft protection, the sides, plates in the front, but no one wants to wear that stuff. People think it's goofy wearing it, but it can save your life if something happens within your situation. Yeah. So I'm just trying to kind of read how my department wants to do it. So that's what we're doing right now.
Strike a balance between protection, mobility, and
I think
comfort, weight,
and comfort.
Yeah, all of those things. Sure.
And I think Joe hit the nail on the head. I think early on, when people were purchasing these vests, they aimed for, I need the highest level of protection, right? And with that came weight, right? Because it just price drove it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, fire departments, it's no secret, all have budgets, no different than a hospital has a budget. And you have to work within that budget. So they purchased, I want the highest level of protection. And, our department looked at that as well. We have this much money to spend. And how can I try to outfit our people and purchase those? And they are heavier, right? So if you look at our team vest compared to that vest that's sitting in the ambulance, that's an RTF concept. The RTF vest is significantly heavier, right? So you're going to have provider fatigue, just like Joe said. Plus, it's no secret out there that the shortage in the fire and EMS field is happening, right? No different than the shortage of nurses and physicians in the hospital, right? So we're all short personnel. And I think that's a huge thing to probably reevaluate at a lot of these places is if you have a heavier vest for that RTF concept, have maybe a futuristic replacement plan. Look
That's what I was
around.
gonna get to, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely look around, ask people that are knowledgeable about it, shop around, and like Joe said, yeah, you might spend more money on the front end, but I'm going to get more longevity out of the product now.
Yep.
I'm going to get 15 years out of that, right? So which is, in the fire service is good, because if you think about it, we only usually get 10 years out of everything. We're only going to get 10 years out of that $3,000, $4,000 set of turnout gear. So why wouldn't I spend maybe a little bit more money up front? I think Joe hit the nail on the head. We wanted the best protection. We wanted all this other stuff on it. And now we're kind of flipping around, looking at teams and professional teams, and no, I want lighter plates, right? I want more mobility. I want more speed. And we're really not sacrificing protection with that either. Mm-hmm. It's just, the way they're manufactured and made, they're lighter, and it costs more money.
Yeah, this day and age, it seems like you can get a whole lot more protection than, let's say, 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
For a fraction of the weight.
And back then, like I'm not knocking how some of the fire departments are doing, like that wasn't really a possibility back then. It was maybe it was around, but it was extremely expensive.
It was, yeah.
And now, now it's normalization, modernized. It's very common to get these style ballistic protection. And a little bit more about the vests, always make sure that you carry everything where you can access it with both arms. I'd like to put it right in the middle, not on your back. No, don't do your back. Don't hang it on one side, because we'll get into that in a little bit, but just to make sure that you have everything to care for the patient right here, ready to go. But always, like Ray said, always make sure you have something for yourself too, and that's what we're helping a lot of departments tailor to. Because a lot of places don't really have a good setup, because they're just trying to get into it, or they want advice, because a lot of us have backgrounds in trying a bunch of gear out and seeing what works and what doesn't. Because everyone loves to slap some Velcro and paint it OD green and call it tactical, but you got to make sure you buy it's actually some stuff that works.
Yeah, off of eBay and Amazon.
No, dude, yeah. If you get anything out of this podcast, do not try to save money at Wish.com, eBay, or Amazon. I tell these guys at these classes,
don't buy.
Don't do it, please.
We had a huge problem with that. So
yeah.
I have a sidebar that I'm coming back to. I'm sorry,
no, you're
terrible.
Good. No, go for it. This is I know where you're going with this, and it's hilarious.
Cat tourniquets?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
So one thing I did want to cover with Joe's, and we're talking about vests, plate carriers, all the different types of options, and Joe's right. The heavier options were around. That was all we had, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we had to pick sometimes. Right. But I think one of the other takeaway points needs to be from this is that vest is not just in that ambulance for that RTF situation, right? It might be for that overdose situation that sounds sketchy. It could be for that domestic violence situation, or that bar fight even, So and let your department SOGs and SOPs dictate that. But yeah, we want to encourage wearing it. If I show up on a scene and my guys are wearing those vests, I'm happy, right? Because they're more protected versus, hey, this situation just went downhill and now we don't have the protection. So I think the lighter does help encourage that too, because we don't want any deterrence for it.
Better to have it and not need it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. All right, back on track, buying stuff. So Amazon's not good. So we recently taught a class for the Ohio State Patrol, and this very nice officer comes up and he showed us his bag. He purchased everything privately on top of what the post had given him. And he's like, I just wanted extra stuff. And he purchased a cat tourniquet, and it was a very good fake, is what it was. So we looked at it, and unfortunately, these companies are getting better and better with this. So, and we're talking about cat just because that's what we commonly see. That's what a lot of agencies that we work with carry. And I mean, it came down to, it was almost identical, except if you look on a cat tourniquet, it has, the lot number that's imprinted on it. And cat is pretty specific with some of the dimples. If you look down towards the red end of it and stuff, that wasn't there, and none of the writing was there. So that was a big red flag. And then we started to look at it because, we all heard, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe like 6 months, a year ago, it was, oh, we're using this tourniquet, and, the windlass broke, or this is malfunctioning. Well, it's because a lot of people were purchasing from Amazon, eBay, and all these other websites that are saying, yeah, we're tactical, but they were poorly made knockoffs that are not going to perform. And, cat tourniquet functions completely well, but we want you to purchase equipment from a legit vendor, right? So, Boundtree, they say sell medical supplies. North American Rescue is I'm a huge proponent of them. Excellent customer service. You know you're getting it from a credible company, right? And the fakes are getting really, really good. And the officer didn't know. He had no clue. When we looked at it and we flipped it over and we started looking at it, there's no lot number.
We hooked this guy up with some real ones, right?
Oh, we did. We took them away. We took the.
I will be confiscating these.
Yeah,
100%. We took those away, and then actually we put them into our program and we passed them around.
We passed them around
and we show people, hey, this is a fake one. And they're like, really?
We got a huge lecture on tourniquets and the fakes, and like Ray said, I mean, they're getting really, really good. And a number one thing they're getting real good with is it's called the sonic welds. And you can see them on here, and that's basically how they piece the material together. And if you find a fake, it looks like someone's just sewing them, and that's a huge failure. We go over that, and what we're doing for university hospitals is if you take one of our classes, we give you guys an individual first aid kit, custom made from Boundtree, and we get everyone squared away, and that's what we have sitting at our table right here.
All the pieces, and earlier you referred to it as an IFAC.
Yep.
What's the difference?
You ready? Yeah. IFAC is individual first.
I just have to ask the leading questions.
No, you're
man.
good.
I need you to answer.
Yeah. Individual first aid kit is IFAC, and that's what we want to have these guys to carry. Anyone that's underneath university hospitals as a law enforcement officer can get an IFAC. If they need it, we have them. We're giving them out in our classes with TECC. It's actually a very nice thing to have. What comes in it is, if you watch our video, it comes with a cat tourniquet, some quick clot combat gauze for wound packing, some Z-fold, just regular gauze if you need to do some more wound packing or any kind of wound care, a Sharpie to write down the time on the tourniquet if it's going to be a longer wait time. We have an ACE bandage that will be a pressure dressing, and some shears and a pair of black gloves that I'm not a fan of, but
yeah, they're tactical.
Yeah,
It's tactical.
don't wear black gloves.
Tactical.
Yeah, don't wear black gloves.
Blood shows up so as well.
Don't get me
So
going on that. Yeah, the black gloves look cool, but under low light, it's going to be very hard to find out what the difference between like sweat or water,
blood sweep or
blood.
something.
Yeah,
you can't
so
tell.
that's my big thing is as soon as we get the IFACs, let's replace those with the brighter colors. You can see the blood. So that's another spiel that we do, and but it's nice. I mean, this is a nice kit. It's probably about $150 to $200 that we give out to every student, or if you're a law enforcement agency that needs it, we hook you guys up, and it's awesome to have.
So what? Let's say somebody does sign up for this TECC course. Compressed expectations. What are they going to do in this class?
Well, so
what's in it? What's in it for the guy? I've already been through paramedic school. I've already been through EMT school, advanced EMT, whatever. What's the
Scott? You can still learn stuff.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Still learn.
No, not.
So let's kick this off.
I can't have it anymore.
What differentiates us is if you're under UH, it's free of charge, which is huge.
Sure.
A lot of other places. Oh, look at that. I knew he was going to do that. I knew that soundboard was coming. I want to take it away from him. He was so excited.
Listen, I waited so long. I'm surprised that we made it this long. Right?
So, if you're under UH, LEO, or EMS, or under the hospital system, 100% free. If you look some private companies, $250 up to $500 a person. So, and you do get an IFAC free of charge, no questions asked.
Nice value.
If you're under another hospital system or you're getting into it and you're like a paramedic, we do have to charge you, just because we do use a lot of higher end equipment, bring a lot of people in to help us. But for TECC, it's going to be a 2-day provider for paramedic. We go over a lot of stuff from the March assessment to scenarios to lecture. A lot of hands-on skill stations of needle decompression, wound packing, chest seals, to like the large-scale scenarios we do on usually day 2. And we bring in live actors. Shout out to Colleen with Traumatic Players of Cleveland.
Yeah,
we use them, everything.
100%.
The best people. I love her. I love those guys. Awesome. Shout out. I had to do it. I had to do it.
Put gear on. You bring your gear with you, whatever your department has. You are expected to bring it and put it on and use it during these scenarios.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's a huge, component is, you have trained actors doing that. We're not just asking some paramedic students to come
Nope,
in, or
no.
or the off-duty guys.
No.
We need to, you did this class last shift, so now we're
No,
gonna have
so like Dr. Dare says, when you sign up, I send out a welcome email. It tells you to bring, if you're part of like an SRT or SWAT team, bring the kit that you usually run. If you're on a fire department, bring your RTF gear that you usually have. And if you're in the hospital system, sometimes hospital systems do have like an active shooter, with North American Rescue, like the SAW vest. And if not, we do have a couple vests for people to use, but we always like to recommend them use their own.
Clearly.
And put it on, get you all stressed out, get your heart rate up. And, I really push home with these guys and, these guys that help me teach, is we want to make sure this is realistic. We do use mannequins, but a lot of it is more of the role players that have done this. Like I said, Colleen and her team do it all over the state of Ohio and know how to do the triage system, know how to put the wounds on. They make their own wounds, and they're really realistic. And that's what I love about what we're doing. And my passion is I'm not a type of person that sits behind a desk and just talks.
Yeah, we're not going to click
through
some PowerPoints and
there's a point in time for it, but
sure.
What we're doing is we're just hitting home the realism of what we're doing, and the implementation of the high quality gear we're using, and realistic players and guys with the backgrounds that we have coming out to teach. I think we're doing something really good for university hospitals and the affiliations underneath us. So that's what we do in day. If you're a paramedic or an EMT to come in, and for the LEO, it is a 1-day class, 8 hours. There is lecture, but we do more of a condensed hands-on version of what we would do at the paramedic class. There's some other skills that the police officers don't really do, but we're kind of making sure that they are aware of what the paramedics do also. Just to make sure that if they're on scene, they see someone doing, they're like, holy crap, like what's going on?
Yeah, the integration.
They understand, like we hit home a lot of the unification aspect. A lot of police and fire people, some departments don't really talk about stuff like this, and the unified command and unification with the police and fire is a huge aspect of what we're trying to hit home with, because if you guys are not at the same page, it's going to be a total disaster. So those are the two classes we're doing. Some side notes that we're doing too is we do oversee a lot of SWAT teams for under UH. We actually have about a dozen right now, which is pretty crazy to me. I wasn't expecting that when we first started this. And they're all over Northeast Ohio, north, south, east, west, you name it, it's there. And we always offer, if you want to do a medical class for your operators or have a medical refresher, we'll come out and do what we do in TECC, kind of like a 4-hour block or whatever. Hey, whatever you want to do, we'll come and help you. We have the resources and instructors. But, I make sure that we have like a liaison for these teams to make sure that, hey, do you need some perishable items? Like, do you guys need new tourniquets? Do you guys need new IFACs for these guys? They'll call me and I'll drive them down there. They meet up with me. But just for that, it's just making sure that medically they're good to go and they get home safe. So I love it. It's fun. It's very happy, and I know these guys. I know TAG is very happy of what we're doing. Yeah. A lot of the teams out by your area, I know that OSP wrote you guys letters of recommendation or letters of accommodation. I said recommendation.
Oh, very nice.
So, and that's the thing too. Like so we go out. I think that's what separates us from a lot of others is you get that relationship. You build that relationship. Especially for me in my area, building that relationship with the post we were at, they could end up at our emergency.
Absolutely.
Right. They feel comfortable with us. They ask questions. And that's what we want. We want a high fidelity situation with hands-on training to teach them how to perform. Right. In that situation, we're going to get better performance. We got to train the way that it's going to happen. And I think we really try to focus on that. I think the actors
train like it.
It's just. I think the actors really incorporate a huge aspect into it, right? Because if it's just that other guy at the station, he's just like, yeah, I got this bleed on my arm. Right. You should put a tourniquet there. And it's like, no, none of that BS. Like, Colleen and her team are amazing. And a lot of them are EMS providers or nurses or medical providers
Yeah.
themselves too. So when we get done with the scenario, they might go up to the person that was treating them and be like, "You missed A on the March assessment." Right? And it's-
Oh yeah,
and it's just
and they
it's
call you
straight
out,
up.
and it's awesome. I love
It
it.
is.
Like,
Yeah.
like the most recent one, that one of the ladies was like, yeah, you missed respiration 3 times. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, what do you? I'm like, I thank you, but like, hey, let's run it back.
Yeah,
And we make it realistic to the resources that the fire department has, and I think we did a good job of like timing of how. The providers got there, like almost like how squads would come up from different cities. Like we don't just
in waves, right?
throw them into it because it's not real.
You have everything you need.
Yeah, no,
immediately.
and
Never
and
happens
and
like
you
that.
throw cold bars, and we're not there to mess with you. Like, we're not there yelling bullhorns in your ear, and
Oh, it's not like SEAL training. No,
I've been to a good chunk of classes.
What
and,
about the sensory deprivation room?
Yeah,
That's loud.
yeah, that's loud, but it's not like me like getting up in your face with the
I'm just giving you a
bullhorn.
hard
Yeah, I
time,
mean,
I know.
no, and Ray has taken classes. Dr. Joe's taken classes. I've taken classes. In Cleveland and Columbus, I went out east for a couple classes, and I love taking aspects of these classes I'm taking and making it our own and implementing it.
Incorporating,
And some classes have awesome things. Some classes some classes don't do well in certain subjects, and how can we make it better and help make it better for people who are affiliated with us? And that's how we've been doing it. And I think we've had a lot of great feedback through a lot of these departments we've been doing, and we're always learning and we're always changing stuff. It's fun. It's really good.